Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another proRevenge Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and click on notifications so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, a greedy college professor tries to take credit for a student's project, and this time it doesn't work out for him. Let's jump right in. I used to be in what my college called CEDAR, an investigation group created by students that want to produce scientific articles, in this case psychology, and normally directed by a professor. I had just started college, didn't know how things worked, but thanks to a friend I was able to enter one of the most exclusive CEDARs of our faculty. They were developing at the time 5 articles, and I was assigned to the newest one, a simple case review, but this story is not about me or my project. This story is about Rebecca, the friend that helped me before. Like me, Rebecca was a psychology major doing her final year of college, and she was one of the lead investigators in the crown project of the CEDAR at the moment, a meta-analysis on conductual behavior therapy in schizophrenic patients around Latin America. This stuff was not easy. She had spent a year and a half working on it, and when I joined the group, it was already in its final stages. Then the drama began. Well, it had actually started midway project, when the first drafts were sent to the publications office. In my college, the publications office can be your best friend or your worst enemy as an investigator, and their suggestions are basically orders. Because the article dealt with a psychiatric pathology, they said it must have the support of our college's med school psychiatry department. The head of the department, who I will call Dr. Trash, put the condition that one of his residents had to be on the project. It was kind of rude to force them to include some random guy, but in the end, she and her group accepted. Enter Julian, the human incarnation of laziness. In a team of 5 individuals, Rebecca, Julian, and 3 other psychology students, Julian barely did any jobs, and whatever he made had to be checked and corrected by one of the others. Sometimes Rebecca doubted he even knew what the article was about from some of his comments. Fast forward again to the finish line of the project. It was basically done and only needed the approval of Dr. Trash, and this is where things went to hell. For those of you who don't know, psychiatrists and psychologists aren't always on the best of terms, and this hidden feud can sometimes cause troubles when we interact. In this case, as Rebecca learned from one of the good psychiatry residents, the problem was that Dr. Trash didn't believe psychology should exist and thought of us as glorified life coaches. You see where this is going. With the project already done, he refused to approve it unless those credited as main authors were himself, reasonable to a point. Department heads were always considered main investigators, our CEDAR director, and Julian. The others could only put their name as investigation assistants on the acknowledgement section. This was a total slap in the face. Even when she tried to argue that she was the one that designed the project in the first place and that Julian did the minimum, the man called her a liar, said her basic idea had needed a lot of corrections, false, and that he knew Julian had written most of the paper as there was no way she could have done it. Remember, he saw us as life coaches. Julian, being the douchebag he had been all year, didn't correct him and let the others drown while he was praised. In her last peaceful attempt, Rebecca asked why they could not put the names of all as authors, and Dr. Trash said that a bunch of unknown student names would only wrest credibility to the thing and refuse the proposal. Lastly, he said that they could accept his terms or quit the project and leave him total control of the article. You may think this is impossible. You may be thinking this is impossible. This man is literally stealing the work from another person. Sadly, this is how investigation works sometimes, and is not uncommon that well-established investigators steal the work of unknown ones, because in the he said, you said, they are most likely to win. Even with evidence like emails and drafts, they can get their way. Rebecca and her friends were devastated, but even the director of the Cedar refused to give them his support. The important thing is that the article is published, not who takes the credit, was his reasoning. That's when Rebecca decided to go full suicide bomber. When she told her friends of her idea, warning them it would be the best if they left the project before things escalated, they decided to stay and help her. The plan was to sabotage the article by modifying the statistical analysis they had made previously, basically the core of it all. The conclusion you got with the new results was the same as before, but anyone who read the thing thoroughly and checked the sources would see the data had been tampered with, making it look like they had forged the results to their convenience. This was a tricky move because they had to make the modifications in between the last revisions with enough subtlety that Dr. Trash would not notice it when he corrected other parts of the text. They were extremely lucky he never checked the statistical component, partly because that was the Cedar director's responsibility and he had already given them the thumbs up. Finally, the article was completed, and the work was sent to the publications office. Then it was just waiting there until it finally exploded. About a month after submitting the project, all the implicated were cited to a meeting with the publications office, including Dr. Trash. The office had seen the altered results, and that meant they had to investigate the group for fraud. To the students and the resident, it could mean expulsion. For the director and Dr. Trash, they would be forbidden to publish again under the university's name, and in the worst-case scenario, they could be fired. And that is when Dr. Trash saw he had condemned himself. Because Rebecca and the others were just assistants, it meant that most of the responsibility was on him and the other main authors. Blaming the students would give away the fact that they were way more involved in the process, admitting he had taken away the credit and that he had not checked the paper properly. In the end, he didn't get to decide how he wanted to be hanged because the Cedar director spilled the beans in order to save his own neck. With the director's confession, Rebecca and the others could tell the truth and showed the publications office the real results and told them about the sabotage. The aftermath of this is very bittersweet. The office started an investigation into all of Dr. Trash's previous articles, including those he sponsored. Their finding was that he had done this many times. After the news spread, he was fired. As far as we know, he has not done any more publishing in indexed literature because serious magazines will no longer accept his submissions. Because of all the drama, Rebecca's article was deemed too compromised by personal interests and was not accepted for publishing, so that year's hard work went directly to the trash. The Cedar director had to surrender his job as an investigator, and the Cedar director had to surrender his job as an investigator, and the Cedar disbanded because there was no other professor available or willing to direct it. Sadly, this is where my little project died. Julian was put on probation by the medical faculty. Rebecca and the others were banned from participating in other investigation projects or studies that were not related to their final thesis, but no more disciplinary actions were taken against them. Thanks for listening, everyone. In story number 2, we have an idiot boss who was taught a lesson for stealing a computer program. I was working in a finance company last year. One day, I proposed an idea to my manager. We had a job that was done manually, and since I have a computer programming background, I knew that this could be done automatically using some new tech. This would save our company 500 man-hours per week. My manager also had a tech background, and he told me that it hadn't been done because it wouldn't work. He was very condescending to me. I'm pretty bullheaded and wanted to prove myself and build my CV, so I developed it on my own, in my own time, on my home computer, then compiled it into a binary, single executable file without code, and gave it to him. My manager got permission from the IT department to run it on his computer. He was very sure that it wouldn't work and said he would laugh at me when it failed, but it did work. Even though the software worked, my idiot manager took it as an insult somehow and banned me from using it. He gave some inane reason that doing it manually was much more effective, which was a bummer because it worked beautifully and it was an elegant solution. Fast forward a quarter or so, my manager was hard-pressed for some brownie points during appraisal, so in examples of showing initiative, he used my software but without mentioning me. Some super senior manager took notice and gave him a promotion and a raise. Now, instead of being a sensible guy and coming clean to get the code from me, he calls me into his office, behaves rudely, and says that I need to submit the code for that software. I asked him why. You said we won't be using it. He's like, either you submit the code or you'll be fired. I was already fed up of being treated like stuff by this guy, simply because he was somehow jealous of me. So I said, flip off, I won't submit the code. I know enough law to know that you can't take action against me, and I resigned. I came to find out later through my colleagues that this is what he must have wanted, so that he could take the entire credit himself without dispute. Little did he know I had protected myself. There was a malicious code module hidden in that executable file, which checked for a 1 or 0 on a remote GitHub repository every time it was run. If 1 or no network was returned, do everything as required. But if a 0 is received, that's the emergency signal. I added that little code because his behavior was very suspect to begin with, and I didn't trust him. I would have removed it for the official implementation, but that never happened. So after I was fired, I went ahead and changed that 1 to a 0 to ensure that no one used it without my permission. Although he couldn't get the code, he did have the executable file, and I was also not in the company anymore, so in his arrogance he called a meeting with his boss, his colleagues, and my whole team to show them a demo of this awesome software he had made. He was using it on his laptop every day without my knowledge. But today the 1 was a 0, so as soon as he pressed enter, nothing happened. He pressed enter again, nada. Suddenly his laptop was frozen and nothing was working anymore. It took him a while to realize something fishy was going on, and then he took out the laptop battery to switch it off. By then, all the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files were encrypted, and the executable had erased itself out of existence. I used the same code, without the malicious module, to get a better job at another company where I'm much more appreciated and the job is also fun. Then the whole COVID thing happened, and now I'm cozily working from my home. My previous colleagues of that terrible company keep telling me that they are being forced to go into the office, so somehow, it was the best decision I had made accidentally. My idiot boss's promotion and raise was cancelled because he couldn't produce what he promised. He also got reprimanded for losing a lot of important company data, which he attributed to some unknown virus. He called me one night, drunk, angry, threatening me that he knows what I did. I feigned ignorance and quoted something like "stuff happens to terrible people" and blocked his number. But I had to tell someone about this flawless victory over stupidity without being implicated, so here it is. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching! If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then please hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.